First of all, kindly permit me, I would like to apologize for the absence of the Honorable Minister of Health and Environment, Dr. Kenneth Darrow, who is attending to official duties at the moment. And also, as we all know, the Honorable Ivor Stevenson, who is ill. We pray for his speedy recovery. So we would like to apologize for their absence. And so the program will just be slightly modified. So at this time, Mr. Colin Geese would be doing the combination of the welcome and opening remarks.
The pilot project on climate resilience is undertaking its annual consultation today with stakeholders to discuss the progress made during the period of January to December 2016 calendar year. The Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project under the Ministry of Health and Environment is the implementing unit, as we know, for the PPCR and the SPCR investment component, and is responsible for coordinating the process of reporting on a country's progress in building climate resilience strategy. I therefore welcome you to the 3rd annual consultation and look forward to your participation. As in the past, the focus of this morning exercise will be on knowledge sharing, lessons learned, and key challenges faced, and making the strong recommendation for going forward. This, we hope, will help us establish baseline, determine benchmarks, and set realistic targets aimed at setting policy directives in the first instance and identify priority intervention to mitigate climate change based on the data collected. Your presence here today confirms your commitment to championing resilience building in effort in Dominica. Your partnership in implementing projects under the DVRP must be commended. I look forward to your active participation in today's consultation, and we work together to address issues of climate change and climate resilience, and achieve sustained economic growth and improvement in the quality of life of all citizens. With these very short remarks, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Geese. As Colin indicated, we look forward to your participation in identifying priorities, because without your input, we would not be able to be where we are today, so we thank you for that. At this time, I'd like to call on Ms. Nadette Langford, who is our Monitoring and Evaluation Specialist at the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, and she will be making a presentation on the country progress on achieving the pilot program on climate resilience core indicators. Ms. Langford.
For the past 3 years, the Project Coordination Unit, the PCU, of the DVRP have been monitoring, evaluating, and reporting on Dominica's progress under the pilot program for climate resilience, PPCR. This process included identification of key sectors, of which there are 14, linked to key implementing units and/or departments in the public service. The basis for the PPCR investment is guided by the Growth and Social Protection Strategy, the Low Carbon Climate Resilient Development Strategy, and its compendium, the Dominica Strategic Program for Climate Resilience. These aforementioned documents set the policy direction for mainstreaming climate resilience into national planning. Under the PPCR, there are 5 core indicators which have been established. They are core indicator 1, which measures the degree of integration of climate change into national planning; core coordinator number 2, evidence of strengthened government capacity and coordination mechanism to mainstream climate resilience; core indicator number 3, quality of and extent to which climate responsive instruments or investments models are developed and tested; core indicator number 4, the extent to which vulnerable households, communities, businesses, and public sector services use improved, supported PPCR tools, instruments, strategies, activities to respond to climate variability and climate change. Core indicator number 5, the number of people supported by the PPCR to cope with the effects of climate change. Core indicators 1 and 2 are defined as qualitative indicators, while core indicators 3, 4, and 5 are quantitative indicators. To measure the progress on indicators 1, 2, and 3, criteria for scoring was developed, which quantifies progress made and also allows for validation of the process. The PPCR-supported sectors being monitored are planning, water, forestry, agriculture, fisheries and coastal zones, disaster preparedness, works, land, hydrometeorology, environment, public health, tourism, energy, and gender. And these are being monitored under the core indicators 1 and 2. Core indicator 3 monitors and reports on the PPCR investment, which is the DVRP. PPCR core indicator 4 captures data on the impact of the PPCR supported investments. And finally, core indicator 5 measures the number of people that are better able to cope with climate change. As you will see here on the graph presented, this is a representation of the country progress in terms of core indicator 1, which is the degree of integration of climate change into national planning. The country recorded overall progress of 39% for the period 2014 to 2016. In year 1, which was 2014, there was 27% progress in indicator 1, year 2, 37% progress, and year 3, 39% progress. On the indicator number 2, which is the evidence of strengthened government capacity and coordination mechanism to mainstream climate resilience, the overall progress for the period 2014 to 2016 is 37%. Progress recorded for year 1 was 29%, year 2, 35%, and year 3, 39%. The overall effectiveness of the coordination mechanism, and the coordination mechanism as mandated by Cabinet is the Environmental Coordinating Unit, for the past 3 years is 49%. With regards to the ECU, which is measured by its effectiveness and efficiency to stakeholders, year 1 recorded 48%, year 2 and 3, 50% respectively. The non-progress between year 2 and 3 is as a result of the lack of access to information on the coordination mechanism. Indicator number 3, the quality of and extent to which climate responsive instruments or investments models are developed and tested. While there is an overall completion rate of 54% for the past 3 years, and this represents the progress made under the DVRP, annual progress for year 1 was 29%, year 2, 32%, and year 3, 40%. This reflects consistent progress on implementation under the investment model from 2014 to 2016. Based on the resource framework for the DVRP, year 1 and 2 was primarily focused on preparatory and procurement procedures, having established the unit in September 2014. And this graph here shows the overall country progress by indicator for 1, 2, and 3. So core indicator number 1, Dominica has recorded 39% overall achievement for the past 3 years. Core indicator in terms of year 2, we have 34%, and year 3, 39%. So overall, if we were to analyze the data presented, the country has been showing steady progress over the past 3 years in integrating and mainstreaming climate resilience into national planning and development. In terms of the way forward, we have identified some of the key areas that needs to be addressed. For example, development and adoption of sector plans, embedding climate resilience strategies. Based on the interview process, the data collection process over the last 3 years, we have observed that most of the line ministries or the sectors are not guided by an adopted plan, strategic plan. Secondly, capacity building in resilience planning to include climate risk screening. We note that most times that interventions are identified, there's no climate risk screening involved in the process or resilience built into the investment. In terms of core indicator 2, the capacity building in monitoring and evaluation for key partners in terms of they collecting the data, using the right instruments to collect the data and so forth. To adopt an evidence-based approach to monitoring resilience within the sectors. And lastly, to identify and implement sector incentives and or legislative policies in the context of climate resilience. And basically, a few years ago, I think government approved to some tariff or zero tariff on the LED bulbs and so forth. So when we speak about incentives at the legislative level, that's what we're indicating, more policies such as this. That's it. Thank you.
Well, from Nadet's presentation, we all see that there has been progress in mainstreaming climate change resilience within the work that we do in Dominica, and we can only go upwards from here. At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Davis Leta, the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Health and Environment, who will be making the main address on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Health and Environment, Dr. Kenneth Darrow. Mr. Leta.
Before I continue, I just want to apologize again for the absence of the Honorable Minister. He is currently at a cabinet session. He was hoping to be with you this morning, but this came up and he has to attend to this urgent matter this morning. And you heard from our chairman of the situation with Mr. Stevenson, and we continue to pray for his speedy recovery. Keep remembering him in our prayers. Today, as we all recognize, marks an important milestone in assessing the country's implementation of the low-carbon, climate-resilient development strategy, which was adopted in 2012. The pilot program for climate resistance, PPCR, administered by the Climate Investment Fund, CIF, is one of the investments by Dominica to achieve the objectives set out in the low-carbon, climate-resilient development strategy. The low-carbon, climate development resilient strategy articulates a strategic vision to support the country's transformation to a low-carbon, climate-resilient development path within the government national development planning process. In this regard, the goal of the PPCR is to help countries transform to a climate-resilient development path that is consistent with national poverty reduction and sustainable development goals. In the case of Dominica, this has taken effect through the establishment of the Project Coordinator Unit, the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, DVRP, charged with the responsibility to perform annual monitoring, evaluating, and reporting on the country's progress and integrating climate resilience strategies in keeping with the strategic program for climate change resilience. By way of information, the SPCR is the compendium to Dominica's low-carbon climate resilient development strategy and identifies detailed implementation and governance arrangements with specific rules and responsibilities of national agencies. And you heard a bit of that from Ms. Lanford's presentation. Following the adoption of the SPCR in 2012, annual progress on its implementation has been carried out by the DVRP. This was presented to you earlier on. Presently, the SPCR is in its final year of implementation, but not all interventions have been completed. At this critical juncture in our development as a country and a people, it is necessary to transform the term climate resilience from planning into a call to action. For the past few years, every citizen at home or abroad can attest to the damages and loss caused by climate change impacts, whether as a farmer, a business professional, an engineer, or a proprietor. If at all we were still doubtful, I think Tropical Storm Erica brought it home very vividly. As a matter of fact, climate change has been described as the greatest development challenge for us in the 21st century, thereby compelling the international community to embed resilience from a development perspective as opposed to just an environmental concern. In so doing, world leaders and planners now consider sustainability across economic, social, and environmental spheres by weighing the impact one decision has on the other, in contrast to the business as usual approach that is now being employed or was being employed previously. Therefore, I urge you participants present at this consultation this morning to actively participate in this process, since there are benefits which can be derived from the provision of relevant data and transformation in the context of climate resilience. This consultation today provides the platform to share knowledge, as you heard from Mr. Gist, and experiences, as well as present you with the opportunity to adopt a suitable monitoring model for use in your own areas of work. In addition, you will be provided with relevant data in terms of your advances in integrating climate resilience within sectors, and will outline a way forward for Dominica. As you heard from Ms. Blanford, under the PPCR investment, 5 core indicators are monitored and reported annually. And for emphasis, I'll repeat them. They are core indicator 1, degree of integration of climate change into national planning; core indicator 2, evidence of strengthened government policy and coordination mechanism to mainstream climate resilience; core indicator 3, quality of and extent to which climate responsive instruments, investment models are developed and tested; core indicator 4, extent to which vulnerable households, communities, businesses, and public sector services use improved PPCR-supported tools, instruments, strategies, and activities to respond to climate variability and climate change. And indicator 5, number of people supported by the PPCR to cope with the effects of climate change. So these are the 5 indicators that are being addressed. The country progress over the last 3 years, as you heard again, has been promising. But like with everything, there's still much room for improvement. There's still much more work to be done. And I guess that's why we're here this morning. This validation consultation, therefore, provides you, the participants, with the opportunity to critically analyze the initial scores assigned, set benchmarks, and develop a realistic plan of action for facilitating success in reporting at the country level. I urge you, therefore, to take this opportunity as a first step in integrating climate resilience strategies within your respective sector and workspace, and even in your own personal day-to-day dealings. The Ministry of Health and Environment, through the DVRP, has presented and managed the monitoring and reporting platform for the integration of climate resilience into development planning. However, the sustainability of the process rests within the public and private sectors. It rests within each and every single individual in Dominica to utilize the best practice for integrating what we hear into what we continue to do as persons concerned about our development. So I therefore encourage you to participate fully in today's exercise, and hopefully that whatever comes out of this exercise will help us be more resilient in mitigating the effects of climate change to our lovely Dominica. I thank you.